For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet. We are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have tonight, I guess, technically, we have a very special guest. We have Morgan Lynch, Memo, Megan. You know, she's got so many names, but Morgan Lynch, how's it going?
It's going really well. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. It's getting to be that nice time of year here in Texas where it's just like 80 degrees. It's not ungodly hot, but
that's
it's
very nice. In New York today, I was like, it's not spring yet. This is not, it looks like spring. It's beautiful outside, but it does not feel like spring yet.
Yeah, for sure. It's starting to feel a little summery out here. Like
groove. That's what I want.
But then again, once the real summer hits, it's going to be like triple digits and it's just going to be insanity. So okay, I'm going to bite my tongue and stop.
You can have this now.
Yes. But really excited to have you on. I know you got a new album dropping at midnight or tomorrow, depending on what platform people consume it on. But really excited to sit down and chat with you, get to know more about you and more about the project. I've been listening to the 2 songs that are currently up on Bandcamp off the project, and Unstoppable, amazing song. It caught me off guard, just to kind of preface that one. But before we kind of jump into the project and everything else, what's kind of take this opportunity to introduce yourself to everybody that's just meeting you for the first time, give a little bit of your background, as much as you want to share, I guess.
Sure. So we were talking about names before, and I have many. So my background is that I came from a acting background where I had to change my name from my original name, which is Megan Lynch, to Morgan Lynch as my professional name. So I go by Morgan Lynch. And then when music came around, I decided to do my own project. I came from being in a lot of bands in Brooklyn, and my number one home band is called Teen Girl Scientist Monthly. And I decided to do my own project because I had started writing music when I was 12, and then actively really writing it by 16 or so, and started to record a bit at that point in time. And then I got really scared of putting my own stuff out there. And so it was really easy for me to be a front woman of other people's bands who wrote the music for it and everything. Yeah. But it was really scary for me to put out my own stuff. And then around like 27 or so, I decided, you know what, like I need to put my own stuff out there. I need to to grow the confidence in order to do that. And so I started gigging as Memo. And Memo is the combination of Megan and Morgan, so me and Mo, but it's also my family nickname. So it all kind of like fell together. When I was little, I would call my mom Mommy and my dad Daddy, and my brother Bubby was his name that I would say at like 3. And then I called myself Mimi. And maybe I was a narcissist even at that point in time, but then Mimi became Memo along the years, and my mother started calling me Memo. So it's a nickname and it's also the band name. And pretty much at this point in time, I'll answer to any M name that there is.
That's fair. That's very fair. So at what point did you start, during your childhood, did you start taking music like seriously? Yeah.
So, I mean, starting at 3 years old, I'd say that I had the drive to want to do it. There's a video of me at 3 singing Baba Black Sheep, and I go up on my words as like a 3-year-old is wont to do. And my mother is sitting there, and there's like, you know, the video. I would say that this is probably my one diva moment. Like I really think that for the most part, I kind of keep it real, but this one moment at 3 years old was like a shining moment where she starts to help me out and sing, and I like deadpan look at her and walk over to her and like tap her on the leg and say, "Stop singing." And so that was the start of it. And as long as I knew, I mean, as long as I can remember,
Mhm.
I always wanted to be in music or theater. It was acting and music to me were one and the same in a lot of ways. And I started musical theater actually. But my parents are so supportive, but they also came from the arts.
Mhm.
And I think that they were very afraid of what it would be for me to be a child actor or, you know, like any of that. So they tried to kind of pull me away from it. And then by 10, I kind of forced them to start taking me to auditions, and it was musical theater auditions. So that was the marriage of the music and the theater. And then I continued to do that throughout all of middle school and high school. And I grew up right outside the city, so I was doing it professionally in the city. And then when it came time to go to college, I went to NYU and I decided to just do straight drama. And that was like the divergence from musical theater, where music took a path on its own and drama, theater, acting took a path on its own. So that's when I started to do bands and stuff, and then kept my acting separate.
Gotcha. So when you started joining the various different band projects, at that point, were you already starting to write your own music, or were you just joining the bands and just kind of participating in their writing process?
I actually started writing music when I was 12.
Okay.
So I started writing first on the guitar for a very short amount of time, even though my stronger instrument, though I do not think that I'm strong on it, is the piano. Okay. And that I'm like looking over at my piano right now. I started in like first grade on the piano, but writing music, I started on the guitar for like the first, I'd say first year or so. And it was my form. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in my family and stuff. It was my form of therapy, was writing music. And so I started at 12 and then switched over to the piano by high school, and then was actively writing. I think by the time I graduated high school, I already had like a catalog of 50 plus songs or something. So I was constantly writing. But I also started to get shy about sharing my own music. And so it was a lot easier for me to be a front woman of bands that I could just plug into the role of that and sing. But it wasn't like, here's my soul, and if you don't like it, then like, I don't know, like we're like, I guess like I don't count as a human being. It's a lot easier to play the role, you know?
Yeah, I got you. Why do you think that you, like when you started like writing your music, you mentioned that you started on the guitar, but you'd already been playing piano for a while. Why do you think the guitar kind of came into play?
I think that, well, I started my piano teacher also was a guitar teacher as well. And I was gifted a guitar from my uncle that was his. It was like a nylon string Martin guitar, and it was a big guitar, so it was hard for my little hands to like actually do it. But because I would learn chord progressions and everything on the guitar, and we were learning Dylan songs, and we were, you know, that seemed like an easier place for me to start writing, at least because piano for me was classical. Like I didn't know how to break it down yet to accompany myself, you know, and that came a bit later with another teacher.
Gotcha. So you started with piano and then shifted to guitar, and that kind of spontaneously brought on the writing process. And then as the writing process grew, I'm not going to say phased out the guitar.
Oh, I can't play guitar now. I like sometimes bandmates will put it in my hand. I'm like, C chord, F chord, you know, like I'm not.
Gotcha.
I was never really that proficient to begin with. Like I think I started when I was maybe like 11 or so, and then I dropped it by 13. Like it was not a long-lived thing.
It was just a thing that you tried at the time, and it didn't. Yeah, gotcha.
Didn't stick in the same way.
Yeah, for sure. So from there, you said you were in several different bands. Are you? Yeah,
I mean, currently I'm actually in a couple bands still. But throughout time, I started in a band called The Hay. And that was right out of college. I started with that band. And that was a Brooklyn-based band. Matt Royberger was the writer of it. And I was asked to be a part of it because someone saw me perform with another band a few songs and was like, no, you should be a part of this band over here. And then that band broke up. And I was like, I was the fifth female singer. I think that we were on the fifth bassist at the time as well. It had gone through many iterations in its own life. And I think that it had kind of run its course at that point in time. But I made this, now our new lifelong relationship with Matt. And so when they were going to bring a new project up, they asked me if I would come on board and be a part of it. And that's Teen Girl Scientist Monthly. And that's my family band. We've been together for over a decade and just love each other very deeply. Also started in Brooklyn. But it's been an interesting ride because we are a family band. So two of the members are married. They just had a second child over, so we take this on the meandering course of life. And then through the years, I was also in a band called Pep. And currently I'm in a band called Growl Honey. And then Teen Girl is like the home base. But Memo kind of came together when I left the band Pep and decided that I wanted to put more time into my own project and of course keep Teen Girl Scientist Monthly.
That was going to be like my next question was, how does the current project of Memo kind of fit into all this? But the desire to start putting your own stuff out there after years of telling other people's stories and just kind of playing the role as you put it, I totally get that and 100% understood. So
and I think that it became important to kind of prove to myself that I had all this experience performing, but I was so afraid to put my own stuff out there that it was kind of that moment of like, get over it. And if you're feeling these things, other people are feeling these things. So it's a healing experience for everyone, which is the whole point of the album and all of it.
For sure. And so this upcoming album that we'll talk about here in a minute, it's the debut album for Memo?
It is,
Awesome. What's going through your mind right now is you're roughly 2 hours, depending on what part of the country you're in.
And what platform you go to and everything. This is very exciting. It's exciting to sort of have this launch into it and be able to talk about it. It's been a very interesting experience because also part of my life is that I just graduated a master's program for traditional Chinese medicine. And so that just happened on April 10th. And so with this coming, this whole thing has been this like ultimate culmination time. So I don't even know how to discern one feeling from the other at this point in time. It's like, there's just a lot happening right now.
Completely understood. And actually I had a podcast last night that they're in the same situation where they're getting ready to release an album. One of the singers is graduating with the bachelor's degree and they're getting ready to go on like a summer long tour, and it's all happening within like 2 weeks of each other. It's like, that's got to be insane.
You just can't really think about it's hard to sort of parse out where the feelings are coming from, really.
Yeah, for sure. But we'll talk about the degree that you got, because when I was reading through that and I kind of saw what you were studying, I found that rather interesting because I'm not going to say I'm into Chinese medicine, but I try and find more natural cures for stuff. So we'll definitely talk about that.
We can talk about that too.
So, but for the album, let's kind of talk about the song selection process. Did you specifically write for an album, or are these just kind of songs that you've been sitting on for a while?
No. So the whole arc of the album is actually essentially a 20-year experience. So the oldest song on the album, as I said, by the time I graduated high school, I had already had like 50 something songs. And then since that, of course, like continued to write and everything. So there's like a wide catalog to look at, and some are crap and some are, sometimes you just like purge something out of yourself. That's it. But the oldest song on the album is I Did, and I wrote that when I was 16. Okay. And then the most recent song on the album, because the album has its own story around the release of it, but I wrote when I was 29, which was the last song that we recorded on the album. And so that one was Worth. Which was the second single that was released. And then it's the gamut of 16 to 29. So there's 15 years there of songs. And I when I started to gig out with the band, that's what kind of solidified the album. Like it was our set list. It was the songs that seemed to resonate the most. And so Worth and In Between, which are both on the album, I wrote specifically once I had the band and we were playing live, because I knew what the parts were and I could actually like hear a song more for a band rather than just for me and my piano, which is the way that I always wrote before. So those were the latest songs, or the most recent songs that came out. But for the most part, it was kind of looking through all of the music and being like, this is a good one. This is not, this, that way.
And I mean, the fact that the songs that track lists that you came up with are like I'm not going to say the most road tested, but they're all road tested, which I think is a really cool thing that bands should be doing if they're not doing, because, obviously you've been playing music longer than the pandemic. Some of the people we bring on here, they've only been playing music since like 2019. So they didn't really get a chance to road test a lot of their music, but I think music just comes off a lot more authentic when it's been road tested. Yeah. And once you get into the studio, it's just like you've been playing it for the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years straight, day in, day out, practice, like whatever it is.
Yeah, and what resonates with people. And I think that's really important for me, is like to make people feel connected. And so, it was nothing was written for the album in any way. It was all performed live beforehand. And then we went into the studio and, cause I didn't even know I was going to do that. Like first it was like, okay, let me get my roving gang of like 9 to 15 misfits that I get on stage that are my like best friends from different musical groups that I've either been a part of or have always like respected, and they're my friends. And so that's why Memo is a sort of like ephemeral thing. It's me, but it's also like my friends. And then after we did probably a year or so of gigging, then I was like, you know what, let's get into the studio and actually record 11 of these songs. And that's what the album is.
Gotcha. And when was this like pre-pandemic that you started recording, or was this during? Yeah.
So the rest of the tail of the album is, so I recorded, I started gigging with Memo when I was 27. We recorded the album when I was 29, and then I sat on it. And once again, that like little fear and the like shyness about sharing my own music set back in. And it was weird, things would come up like, well, it's not the right time, or I have to do it the right way, or like it should be like this. And just like year after year would pass and I wouldn't release it. And then the pandemic hit. And I still like, that could have been a great time to release it because it was already in the can. Everything was it was truly ready to go out. And I still didn't do it. And then now I'm releasing it now because I think that we've all seen kind of the dumpster fire that we're in. And I was like, you know what, this is a good time to put on music and make people feel connected. But it was 6 years waiting. So it took that long to actually finally release it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, gotcha. Completely. So
that's why it's like a 20-year journey.
Hey, sometimes those are the sweetest journeys, just the ones that take time to mature, and, everything happens for a reason at the right time.
Yeah. And at this point in time, I need to kick the kid out of the house. Like it just needs to, be out there into the world, fend for yourself, like.
Yeah, completely understood. And I do want to apologize. I'm called Untouchable the wrong name. I was trying.
Oh, yeah, no, that's totally fine.
I'm sitting here and I was talking about it at the beginning and I don't even remember what I called it, but I know I did not call it Untouchable. I was just like, dang it, I'm that guy. Thanks. Good night. So,
Gotta go.
Yep, pretty much. But no, so obviously this has been a long time in the making, and now you're within arm's reach of it releasing, and I'm sure your mind's got to be racing 1,000 miles an hour. Did I pick the right time? Did I, promote it enough?
Yeah.
What's kind of going through your mind right now?
Quite honestly, I think because I waited so long to release it, that stuff is gone. Like, I actually don't have any fear about releasing it, about whether or not it's the right time. I think that we've all learned that there is no such thing as the right time, that time is a construct as it is. Like, they're just like, in general, I think that, and then there's no right way, especially I think in the changing scape of the music industry, that it's kind of like the wild, wild west now, where it doesn't really feel like there is a right way or time or anything to do anything. So like, might as well just put it out there and hope that you reach people,
Yeah, for sure. It's, there's no rules anymore. Just kind of do what you feel.
Just throw it out there, see what sticks,
Yep, for sure. For sure. So I'm going to ask you to pick your favorite child off this album.
Okay.
What is your favorite song to play that's on this track list?
Ruth. So Untouchable was the first single. And I think that there's I think that that's the most fun in a lot of ways, because it's irreverent and it has like these like doo-wop roots to it and everything.
That's what it was. I was trying to figure out. I was picking up something and I couldn't remember, but doo-wop, that's what it is. Yes.
Yeah, it's like kind of like a 60s girl groupie, except that the chorus has a lot of cursing in it.
I loved it about it. It was so raw. I love that about it. That's what that's what I loved about it. So
but I think that actually probably my favorite child is These Roots, which is the last song off of the album. There's something about really the recording process of what that one was too, because it's very different than I actually wrote it after I come from being a yoga teacher, and it was after my first 200-hour yoga teacher training. We had to do like some sort of presentation, and it didn't really matter what it was or what it was about, but something about sort of yogic tenets, and talk about a book and so I wrote a song, which was always my out in school too. Like whenever they're like, do a project, I would be like, okay, I'm just going to write a song about like whatever, like Thomas Paine or whatever. And it would get me like an A+ because they're like, oh my gosh, you wrote a song. I'm like, yeah, because it's easy to do this, like it's fine. But so I wrote These Roots after going through the 200-hour training. And it is sort of this feeling of non-attachment to the material world and having like a greater sense of love for the interconnectedness of us all and of maybe source or whatever. And so whatever you want to call it. So that one for me has this like special place. And then when we recorded it, we kind of took this a cappella song, which it always was, and made this like huge soundscape at the end. And it builds in a way that could have only happened really in having great bandmates that like we started to do it live like that. And then we recorded it like that, which had its own life as well. And so that kind of has its own special place for me.
Gotcha. So are you planning on doing any like visual components for the album, like any music videos or stuff like that?
So there is a finished music video. It is already done. And it's for Untouchable. It's for this single. And so I got to get a bunch of my favorite people in the same room, and we made a music video together. And it sort of, it definitely complements the doo-wop feel, is the premise of the music video as well. And sort of like this magical realism.
Gotcha. And
yeah.
I take it it's already out on YouTube and whatnot, or?
No, so yeah, album drops tomorrow. And then the music video, I think, is slated for May 20th right now.
Okay.
So we're like kind of riding the album for a little bit and then pushing the music video after that.
For sure. Before we jump into a little bit more about the album, what kind of went into how was the creative process for the music video? Was it mainly your idea, or did you kind of just rest on the ideas of like your video production, whoever helped you produce it or shoot it, or, you know? Yeah.
So I actually, back into my like acting side of things. Once I graduated NYU, I started to do less theater. And I started to do more film and television. And I learned a lot of stuff on set, and I learned a lot about producing and actually directing, like watching directors. And so I guess maybe like a year before I made the album, or maybe 2 years before, I directed my first short that I also co-created with a friend of mine, Gina Duvall. And it was a spec piece for like a whole series, which never actually came to fruition, but that was my first dabble on the other side of the camera. And I realized that I loved it. Yeah. And so then I continued to make short films, and I've had like a great creative teams behind me that are all friends, because luckily I like am kind of in a pod of just very creative people in general. And Nick D. McKelly, who is my producer of the album and also one of my best friends, he also is a editor and a colorist and everything. So he would help on the production side of that. And for the music video, he also edited it and colored it. But I directed it. The story was something that I came up with mostly because I wanted to see my friend Billy Griffin Jr. dance. And so I was like, we're gonna like create this whole thing so that like I can have you in a dance studio and dance. So, and I've just had wonderful people, Sorrow and such a great group of humans to pull from to make it happen.
You sound like you come up with film and video ideas like I do. You want to see if something can happen, and you write something around that.
You know, so my friend and I are doing we're creating a short film now where I'm going to actually act in it again and not direct, and he's directing. Yeah. But I didn't know this, but the creator of Fleabag, do you know that show? It was a one-woman show, and then it became, I think it was on HBO or Showtime. Her whole process, instead of writing like start to finish or arc-based or anything like that, is she wants to live out a moment of something. She's like, okay, I want to like feel what this thing is, and then she'll like write around whatever that is. And I really like that as a concept, you know? Yeah. So that's how we wrote this short too. Yeah.
I once wrote a film around the concept of I wanted to see if I could take a punch to the face. And so I wrote a mental health piece around a guy that goes crazy and his girlfriend tries to wake him up by knocking him out. That's
great.
Yes. Luckily, all my short films, because when I was younger, I was very bizarre with my short film ideas. And so luckily a lot of them aren't out there because they would. I
often think that it's great that like I didn't grow up within social media. Like it came later in life. It was college, you know, so like, because I think that things could have gone real weird at different points.
Oh yeah. I once made a film around a pie eating contest. It was just because I wanted to see if I could eat an entire, in New York, did you guys have like a Baker's Square? No, or was that not no?
What is that?
It was like a commercial pie company that was in Chicago.
I don't think so.
but anyway, so they had a French silk pie, which was basically pie that just chocolate pudding and just a bunch of chocolatey goodness. And I wanted to see if I could eat an entire.
You
French
just wanted to eat it.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if I could sit there and eat an entire French silk pie. And so I wrote a movie around that. So
that's great. I think that's awesome.
I mean,
however the ideas flow, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to run out and scream into the middle of the street, and that's like kind of how this short started. So it's like, yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. And how long have you been doing the short films now at this point?
Around the same time. So I started making them in 2000, when did I, 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So been doing it for a little bit. That's awesome. I mean, short films, it got to a point there where it was like, I got to stop doing this because it's fun, but it's expensive, and it's, you're not getting a lot of return off the short films as far as.
Yeah, it's harder now. I think it used to actually be a great way to have a calling card to go on and do other projects and everything. But once again, all the industries have changed so much. And even to have a short film, you need to have like 10 celebrities deep in order to get into Sundance now or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So, I totally get it. But so the music video you're thinking May
20th, I think, was the thrown around date for it. Either that or between that week and the week before, but around that time. Yeah.
Awesome.
Between the 30th and 20th.
Awesome. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be, I always love watching, I love watching independent music videos. Yep. That's the word I was looking for. So just because they range from absolutely amazing because they put everything they had into it, and some of them, they've got really good production value, to the absolute strange where it's like, yo, what'd you guys do that? Like, what did I just watch? So I can't wait to check it out. So
yes.
What's kind of the plan moving forward with the release? Are you doing any shows to promote the album? Like, what's that?
We did a release show for the first single for Untouchable at Rockwood Music Hall, and that went really well. It was an amazing show, and so many people came out, and then I was exhausted because then it was also graduation. So I kind of put like all my duties for like graduating on pause to do that, and then I was like, oh, I graduated in 4 weeks. I should probably like get my life together on that side. And so I couldn't get it together in my own brain to like forge ahead and do an album release show on the weekend of the album release. But I think that we've like bantered it around with the group that I use. It's also with Memo, it's like a roving group of friends. So it's like, it's whoever can really come out and do it. But the group that was a part of the single release show would all be down to do another one. So I think that probably late May as a release show we'll do something
right around the music video.
Yeah, right around the music video. It all like is around Untouchable. Like that Untouchable gets its own life,
Hey, that's cool. It's a great song. Like I'm not kidding when I say that. It's a great song, and I hope everybody gives a chance to go listen to it and just enjoy the entire body of work as it is. Because you mentioned that the entire album tells a story while each song tells its own story.
Well, it's more that the album, I think, it's not like a story album. It's not like one song, because it's literally written from 16 to 29.
Yeah.
It's more that the album has a life of its own that it's had such like a breadth of time to exist and live. And I think that for me, it's a journey of my own healing, which is why I went with Business of Healing as the title of it. And also the, like title track is on it. But it's with that, there's like the meandering twists and turns that happen along your growth.
Yeah, for sure. So throughout this journey, throughout this journey of
Mhm.
working intentionally, and I'm guessing at certain points unintentionally working on this album,
Mhm.
what's one thing that you kind of took away from this entire process that'll change how you approach music moving forward?
I think that mostly it will be that, like not to be, just put it out there. Like don't be so afraid or precious about things. Like it's a big thing for me, especially coming out of these 2 years of quarantine and COVID and everything, is that music and art in general helps to connect us, and it's been such a time of disconnection. And so what I said before about like if I've experienced something or gone through something, there's probably someone else out there that's experienced the same thing from a different vantage point, but like has that feeling.
Yeah.
And music and art, but specifically music, I'd say, has always been my salvation in that way. And I think that that's why I was pushed to put it out there, so that like maybe it can be that for someone else. And it just makes us feel a little less alone out there.
For sure. Do you regret waiting so long to release the album?
I don't think that I could have done it on a different timeline. I really believe that like everything happens as it has to. And I think that, I think that it would also have been, had I released it back when we made it and had these ideas of this like perfectionism around it, where it's like, it has to be done in this way. It should look like this. The outcome has to be this, then I would be this like anxious ball of nerves and wreck and like sitting like, will they like it? I don't know, and like now I'm just like, I don't like, just like enjoy. I hope you enjoy it. But it has its own sort of space now, which I don't think that it would have had before.
Understood. Do you think that this comfort of just letting the album out there comes with the fact that these songs are road tested and these are the songs that people have reacted well to? Or do you think that that comfort comes from maturing over the last 5, 6, 7 years?
I think it comes more from maturing and from in the best way. Like this is going to sound like not caring as much about either. I don't want to say like what other people think, because I really do. I want people to feel held by the album, and to be able to connect to it, but like not having the same, I think, insecurities around it the way that I used to.
I get what you're saying, because I kind of have that same vibe and think, like I used to say, I don't care what people think. But that's just like the aggressive way of saying it to get the shock value of
usually like that means that you very much care what people think, and it's like a way of shielding yourself from that like deep care that actually exists.
But when I say like, and I think this is kind of what you were getting at, correct me if I'm wrong, but when I say when I don't care, people's opinions of me aren't going to change how I truly feel about something or truly feel about what I'm doing. So if they say, oh, I don't like, let's say I'm a musician. I can't play a note, whatever. But let's say I decide to come out with an album. They're like, yo, this album sucks. And it's like, no, I mean, yes, maybe to you, that's cool, but I'm still going to release it.
Yeah. I think that's also like, I think it's not being as precious about it. I think that not having your identity wrapped up in what you do artistically, where I think that before I very much did. It's not who I am. It is something that I put out into the world, and either people are going to resonate with that or they're not. And like, that's, I don't resonate with all music out there either. It's not, it's whatever. It's whatever floats your boat, and so it's like it's less personal. I guess that's what it is. The I don't care is that like it's not personal.
Yeah.
The actual album is quite personal, but but whether or not you like it, it's less personal in that way.
Yeah. And it's all opinion based. So there's no actual facts being laid out there. It's just, oh, I don't like that. Okay.
I don't really like bitter as a taste. Like it doesn't mean that it's like a bad, like it's
Yeah.
needed in like in the grander scope of things, but like it's just not to my taste.
Yeah, I completely understand. So just going to reiterate it. The album comes out here in about an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Depending
somewhere. It'll be on Bandcamp. I will release it on Bandcamp because I have control over that side at midnight. And then it's actually the Young Folks which is let me get I can do like a little plug here as I pull it up, but they did an official release of the album tonight. And so that's up on their site. It's theyoungfolks.com, and it's the music premiere, the Memo release. And so the album is up on SoundCloud through that site right now, actually as like a pre-release. On Bandcamp, I'll release it at midnight, and then it should matriculate. I don't know if it's going to be on iTunes and Spotify and all the other platforms at midnight or like sometime tomorrow.
Yeah. Usually Spotify is pretty good.
Okay.
But then again, if you didn't get it to them in time, depending on when you got it to them.
Well, everything's in. I know that I can see that on my side. So I know that it's all there.
Yeah, for sure. Gotcha. Completely understood. Cool. So just to kind of step away from the music for a little bit, we'd talked about this a little bit earlier, but you just got a degree in, I'm not going to butcher.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's traditional Chinese medicine. And MSTOM is the master's that I got in it. And so it's acupuncture and herbs and Eastern medicine in general. It's the longest master's program that there is in the States. And so it was about 4.5 years. Sometimes you can get out, if you just do acupuncture, you can get out in like 3 years. But if you do acupuncture and herbs, then it's like a 4.5 year program. And you get to practice with your master. So I will start as an acupuncturist actually in a few weeks. So that's that side of things.
Awesome. My buddy is a chiropractor that also studied acupuncture. So when you said that, I knew exactly what you meant. And I was just like, I don't know, needles scare me, but they keep telling me acupuncture is something different or not that bad.
It is. So I think because we come from like a shot culture, it's inoculations are really scary because they're big hypodermic needles. And then or like getting your blood taken is also scary because of that. They're big, thick needles. And so we have this like negative correlation to what needles are. And I actually in school did a presentation for needle phobic people, talking about it, because an acupuncturist needle is 1/100th the size of what a hypodermic needle is.
Oh, wow.
So they're very, very thin. They're filiform, so there's no like hole in them. There's and for the most part, unless you're trying to get a sensation, unless you're trying to release a muscle or something, you don't really feel it at all.
Gotcha.
You might feel like a prick for a moment, but like for the most part, you don't really feel it.
Yeah. And I think my fear was, so I have cerebral palsy, and growing up, it was the doctor once a week, blood tests every 3 months, just like a whole gamut of traditional medicine type stuff. And when you're 6-7 years old and you don't understand any of this stuff, and all you know is they're putting a needle in your arm and it hurts.
Yes.
That scares the hell out of you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that our correlation to what that is, and especially if you've gone through, any sort of like illness, especially in childhood, of course, you're going to have a different experience with what it is to interact with needles and doctors and all of it,
Yep. I always told my parents, though, the good thing is you don't ever have to worry about me doing hard drugs, because I am definitely, I'm not going there. But no, I'd mentioned that I'm all about like the natural stuff, and I just like updated got fresh bottles of all my supplements that I take for knee joint pain and muscle relax. Well, I guess muscle relaxers is kind of a strong term. They're sleep aids that just aren't strong enough to knock me out.
Okay, gotcha.
So
Yeah.
I use those to kind of relax the muscles and get me through the day. And yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like an L-theanine or
so
like an
right.
actual prescription, like so like a
Oh, no.
natural supplement.
Yeah. So I take valerian root.
Oh
It's
yeah.
very big. Valerian root.
Yeah.
I take that's like the savior of my life. Like
That's
it
amazing.
keeps, and then I started taking kava again.
Oh yeah.
But the issue with kava, it's also a diuretic. And so
Uh,
it like I'm up into the bathroom like all the time. So I started taking it at night and I don't get up as much. So that's kind of
yeah.
cool. But
Kava's really calming. I don't drink, and so but they have like kava bars now, and just like kava root drinks, and it's a great adaptogen. You know, it's one of the good ones.
Yeah. And then I started taking Fluorosil 50 for like my gut health and all that stuff. So that's been a new journey. That's one of those like bro pills that I've seen kind of pop up on the internet, but it's helping. Like it's just
I'm telling you, it does. Like everything works. I mean, being from so that's more like Western herbology, and then like Eastern herbs. Sometimes there's correlation between all of it, but like we have different names for it. That same Latin, but different Chinese pinyin names. And I don't know if there's a formula that has like valerian root in it. That's an interesting thing that I'll research. But with herbs in general, we have to. So my school is very Western based as well, because we want to interface with MD communities. And I think the best health that you can give to a patient is when you have integrated health in general, where like East meets West. And so we had to take pharmacology classes to make sure that herbs don't interact with pharmacology. Because the herbs are strong, like they really do work and they help, and it might not be as fast as taking a pill. And I think that we're in a culture that really likes instant gratification. But if you are participating within your own health, you're going to get less side effects as well. Like it's just that, but they are very strong and they are very effective. Yeah.
I mean, for me, a lot of the stuff that I take, it took me about a week or two for it to like really start seeing like some real changes in it. But now it's just like, it's so ingrained into my system where it's like, okay, just keep doing it and you're fine. Like, I just refilled my glucosamine, which for the joints, because when I was about 10 years ago, I was living out in New Mexico and I was complaining about like, this was the only thing at that point I was taking was the valerian root, because they tried to put me on like hardcore muscle relaxers that was destroying my liver. And they're like, you need to either go get monthly blood tests or we've got to put this pump in you to manually put it into your bloodstream. And I'm like, I'm not doing the pump. So that's not going to, because then then I'm stuck and I've got to go to the hospital every month to get it refilled and all this nonsense. So they're like, okay, well, we're taking you off the pills then. So you got to wean yourself off. And I'm like, wait a minute, I have to wean myself off this stuff? Like, that sounds dangerous. Like, I mean, if the pills are that dangerous that I have to wean myself off, then why am I on them in the first place?
Right.
So, and then I found the valerian root and
life got good.
Yep. But no, it's been amazing and I enjoy it. What got you into more of the herbology and traditional Chinese medicine?
So I come from a weird home, like a weird household, and
that's a way to put it.
where none of this was really odd, and so it wasn't like out of the ordinary or anything. So I start this story saying I was born in Berkeley, California, which I feel like explains a lot of anything that I'm about to say right now. Even though I grew up on the East Coast, I was born there and I lived there for 3 years. But my parents are also East Coasters who moved there in the 60s. And my dad in the Bay Area, it's more open, I think, in general to more holistic medicine and also Eastern philosophy, like in the 60s, like really came through there. And so my dad is like I'm his one disciple of like a hybrid between Taoism and Buddhism. And so like I am, there's the way of the lynch.
Yeah.
But he is a Tai Chi and Qigong master. And he was a teacher. And so I grew up he taught at the village center for seniors. But I would go on nights that he was teaching from the time I was very little. And so I sort of grew up within that sort of martial arts lineage. And then he had a shoulder problem and he went to see an acupuncturist for his, and also like throughout my life as well, his Tai Chi and Qigong master, his brother was an acupuncturist and an herbalist. So it was Gordon and George, and Gordon was the acupuncturist and herbalist. And my dad got really sick with Hep C when I was 12. And he started at that point in time, it was right at the start of everything. And it was at the start of like baby boomers were just beginning to come down with Hep C because it had been in remission in their system for in latency for so long, from the 60s. And so my dad was part of one of the first clinical trials for interferon, which is the drug that they now use and like is very effective for treating it. But at that point in time, it was like, I think it was a 17% success rate, if that high. So it was definitely under 20, and it might have been under 15. For some reason, 17.6 in my head.
Yeah.
And it had terrible, terrible side effects as well. And so he decided to go both ways. So he did the Eastern medicine, he did herbs through Gordon Shu, and I don't think he really went through acupuncture. He was doing herbs there, and they were disgusting. They smelled up the whole house. So that was my first like introduction to herbs. And then he was doing interferon from the Western side. And you were supposed to be in the trial for a year, take it for a year. And after 6 months, he went back to his doctor and he said, these drugs are, I think that they're hurting me at this point in time. I don't think that they're helping me. I think that they're doing damage to me. And they tested his blood and his counts were gone. And so that was my first, like, sight into how Eastern and Western medicine can interface so well, and how it can actually help heal a person on both sides. And so I would have moments like that throughout my life of Eastern medicine. And so my dad had the shoulder injury, found a great acupuncturist, who is the person that I will be working with, Angela Lee. And then she became my acupuncturist because I started to have some health issues. And I, at that point in time, was hooked. So it wasn't, she's sort of been a mentor for me for years now. But that started kind of my path. And then I was in this crossroads of trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life at 30. And she just dropped this life-changing bomb where she was like, I just wish that you were an acupuncturist because I would hire you. And it was just at that moment when you're like trying to think about what your life is going to be and the way that it's going to look. And it like percolated in my system for a while. And then I came back to her a couple of months later. I was like, were you serious about that? And I went back to school and I did it. So,
nice.
Yeah.
So acupuncture is primarily what you studied, all that, and
acupuncture, herbs, Eastern philosophy, that like is the stem of what the Eastern medicine is in general.
Gotcha.
And then a lot of Western medicine as well.
Gotcha. Now, is the cupping thing that became like very popular there a few years ago, is that also under like Eastern medicine?
Yeah. That comes under acupuncture and that's one of our wheelhouses.
Gotcha. What is
and Fascia too? I think that's become like a big Gua sha is used to release the muscular layer and the surface layer of our skin. So it's great for like releasing colds. If you're like sick, you like gua sha your neck. But right now it's really popular for face, for like facial gua sha, because it also helps build collagen.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, those are all tricks of the trade from, you know, like how many, 5,000 years ago.
I always found cupping very interesting. I've never had it done, and I never really understood what it did, but I saw that like, a lot of athletes did it there, at least during the, what was it?
You saw the beautiful marks. And I think the first person actually brought it to like the cultural sphere or whatever was Gwyneth Paltrow had back in the day, had like a red carpet, like backless dress, but then she had these like cut marks on her back, and everyone was like, what's going on here? It was like pre-Goop days even, you know? But yeah, that was what it does is it releases, it's very similar to gua sha in that it releases the muscular layer. So it gets into like the fascia and the connective tissue in the body. So that's why it's great for athletes. So if you're dealing with any structural issues, it's really good for that. And yeah, or if you have any like sort of pain in your body in general, it's really good.
Awesome. I might really have to check that out.
No needles involved with that one. So yeah, you don't have to be afraid of it.
No, it's, you know, it's one of those things where I've been reading a lot and doing a lot of studying about fascia and like the importance of like releasing your fascia and getting that work, like getting fascia therapy is, it seems to be the general term that a lot of people throw around, whether it's like deep tissue massage or, you know, cupping or, you know, even some chiropractors do some fascia work, which is really cool. So I've just been reading about it because I'm not one of those.
Fascia is so interesting because it's the sheath that covers our whole entire body, and only now are people actually talking about it.
There's this guy I watch on YouTube, and just watching how people's bodies change right in front of you just by doing fascia work. It's like, I need to find somebody that does it. So really, it's the interconnection from all of it's actually part of the reason why acupuncture is so effective, but it's the interconnection of all of the organs and also the muscles. And it has a muscular element to it. It also has an electrical current element to it. And so it can affect your gut health. It can affect everything. Awesome. You just made me want to do it more and more. So thank you for that. But no, that's awesome. And then when do you start? What's on the plate now in that realm? Now that you've graduated, when do you start working?
I go to LA for a week to have fun with my friends out on the West Coast. And then I come back on the 8th and I start, I have like a slow, like onboarding into the practice that I'll be at, called Fifth Avenue Fertility on the Upper East Side in New York. And it's a fertility practice primarily. But I'm working with Angela, who is the person who brought me into all of this.
Awesome. And then you're going to try and balance music with it as well, or
so that's like the fun little experiment. So I like, as I was graduating, I was like, let's release the album and like let's do all the things at the same time. And I think it's going to be the whole reason why I decided to go back to school in the first place and to do all this was really because I wanted to continue to be able to create for the rest of my life and to be able to do it the way that I wanted to do it. So to have the support underneath me, both financially and everything, to be able to continue to make short films and to be able to continue to produce albums and not be no longer like kind of chase the dragon in the same way where I was like playing this game of permission of like, will you let me be a part of this? And instead like be able to make my own way and create for forever, you know, for the rest of my life.
Understood. So you seem very passionate, very driven by a lot of things, and, you know, very busy, obviously, with the music, with the just graduating, going to school, and now starting to work as an acupuncturist. And then, of course, your short films and all that stuff. Do you ever have time to just sit back and enjoy life? that sounds really harsh to say it that way, but I'm,
I mean, the thing is that like I truly, you know, when I was working at the clinic, my school has a clinic attached to it, and I was working at the clinic this last term to do my clinical hours, and while I was, you know, releasing this album and doing the gig and doing all of the things, and I woke up one morning, I was like, I have a life hack. Because like I truly wake up every day and enjoy what I'm doing, and it doesn't matter what the quote unquote work is, because it doesn't feel like work. And so everything that I do is so enjoyable that like I don't need a hobby. Like it's like it's my whole life is like it's good. It's lovely. I'm very lucky to do all the things that I do. And on top of it, the people that I work with are all like my best friends anyway. So like we all get to hang out together, you know?
Gotcha.
But I need a lot of downtime too, because I think that it's constantly going. So I have like my nightly, like when we get off the phone, I will like take my bath, I will meditate. Like I need like the decompression as well, for sure.
Nice. Actually, it was quite funny because you were one of the first people that was like, no, actually 10 o'clock is like the best time for me to do this. Normally it's like, hey, can we do this earlier? Because
well, I had some musician friends in from Seattle that I didn't get to see. And so I wanted to be able to see them for dinner. And then I was like, yeah, 10 o'clock's great. This is gonna be awesome.
Awesome. That's cool. But I don't want to keep you too much longer here because we're coming up on an hour about. So if anybody wants to check out the music when it drops or any upcoming shows or just interact with you on social at all, where's the best places to get all that information?
Yeah. So the best place to get in touch with me or contact me or just see what's up in general. The only real social media that I do, because I don't tweet. I'm not on Twitter.
Yep.
But I will actively respond to you is on Instagram, and that's Memo and Franz. So it's MEMO and AND Franz, FRANDS, Memo and Franz. And then the Bandcamp is also memoandfranz.bandcamp.com. And that's where the album will be in an hour. And yeah, I feel like that's probably the best inlets to get a hold of me in general. And then the music will be on Spotify and iTunes and everything. The album is called Business of Healing. And I think that's it.
That's everything.
Those are the places to find me.
Awesome. I will have to add it because I was going to ask. And
my phone number is I'm an open book. You know?
I got you. No, it was quite funny because as I was kind of prepping for this, all that I could find was your Instagram page. And I was like, okay, there was a little bit of information on the Instagram page. And then I found like a random link that I think you had embedded on your Instagram that took to an article.
That's to the Worth article right now, right?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm going to change that back to band. Well, actually it'll be now the article that's written about the release of the album. So that'll be the young folks. But yeah, that's the link that I put up there is just whatever the latest
article
material is that's out there.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And so sitting there, I was like, all right, surely she's got more than an Instagram page. And so then I was reading the article and I scrolled down and I was like, oh, Bandcamp, cool.
Yeah.
Clicked on that. No other social media. I'm like, all right.
Yep. Keep it real minimal, just real streamlined. You want to get me on Instagram or Bandcamp, and that's it. And then the music will be everywhere, but those are like the only places where I really live as Memo. And then my Memo and Franz account, as I think you saw, because that was the image that you used. Yeah. I don't separate. It's actually kind of important for me not to, because I don't separate my music from the work that I do elsewhere, or, you know, from the Eastern medicine, from any of it, because for me, the whole thing is that I want it to be all encompassing. Like I am one human that is putting all this out there. And I think that in a way, it's like a level of transparency. Like there's no artifice around any of this, you know?
Yeah, for sure. but it's been an absolute blast chatting with you. Before I let you go, though,
Yes.
we've got to take a spin of the random question generator.
Okay.
Just a little bit of fun. Hold on. Usually, I try not to do it every week, but today, special day, so we're gonna do it.
Let's do it.
Ooh, a very deep question.
Ooh.
What is your greatest fear?
Oh, Jesus. Well, on like a honest and but also kind of corny note, I think that putting this album out was truly one of my greatest fears because of that feeling of I don't really fear corporal death, like our body not being here anymore, but the death, the dissolution of ego or who or whether or not you'll be loved at the end of the day. I think that that's actually far scarier to me. And so I think that part of the releasing of the album and why it was so hard was that fear of what if people see this and see me for the fraud that maybe I think that I am inside, which was a huge thing to sort of overcome, and why when I say I just don't care as much anymore, it's more of the conquering of that fear of whether or not you'll be loved or whether or not you'll be seen at the end of the day.
Totally understood. I get it. I
hate spiders too.
Totally. Yeah, fair, very fair. It's to kind of piggyback off that. For me, it almost has to be getting caught up in the destination of life and not enjoying the journey.
Yeah,
is my greatest fear. Being so caught up on getting to the destination of where I think I want to be.
Yeah.
But missing the entire point of going to the destination, which is the journey.
Yeah.
And I've definitely caught myself in moments where it's dude, you're in the middle of the Florida Keys right now, and you're so worried about 10 years down the line. Enjoy where you're at right now. There's very few people that get to be in the Florida Keys listening to bluegrass music. We were there for a bluegrass festival.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, absolutely. And the whole thing is that there's no there. No matter on this journey in general, there is no end destination. It's only the journey. That's all we really got. And then you get what you think that you're going to get, and it's not what you thought it was going to be anyway. So you have to enjoy the journey.
Yep. And I think that all wraps up into my fear of being considered a failure.
Yeah.
So
well, that's at the crux of this too, I think, is that feeling of what if I fail? What if it's a failure? What if I'm a failure? Putting the I am attached to whatever you actually do, rather than, and it's not you as a human being, it's a thing. Yeah,
for sure. I didn't mean for the end of the podcast to get this deep, but that's what
we're talking about philosophy. It's going to go everywhere. It's music.
That's what the random question generator does. You think you're going one way, and it's nope, we're going this way.
Yeah.
So, but once again, I do want to thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me. It's an absolute blast. You're welcome on anytime. Feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much. That was so much fun.
Yeah. And if we ever make it to New York, I keep saying it every time we have somebody from New York on the podcast. It's on the list.
Come on by.
My sound engineer, he's from Boston, and he's like, dude, we got to go up the East Coast. I want to go home and see my family and all this stuff. And it's all right, fine, we'll get it. But you could realize there's only 4 months out of the year that we really want to go up the East Coast. So,
that's fair. But starting now until that's not true. We actually have winters are not as bad as they used to be, climate change, but they are not as bad as they used to be. And our springs are kind of wonky, but like, I'd say that maybe we got half of a year now.
Okay. 6
We
months.
might have half a year. Yeah.
Like from now until probably what, like October? October's got to be still pretty
October's
decent.
beautiful.
Mm.
November is even still like kind of okay at this point in time.
Okay.
It's like the bad months don't come from, unless you want to do like holiday stuff, don't come from December
to like
through
February.
April at this point in time. I say definitely don't come in February. February is the longest, shortest month, but definitely through March. April's a little wonky. You might want to start coming in May through like November. You're pretty okay.
Okay. Fair enough. That's good to know. Because in my mind, it's like from like
you only can hit it for a month and that's it.
From like June to maybe September if you're lucky. Other than that, nope, don't even bother.
No.
But that's just never been there. So
you gotta come.
I'm working on it. I swear I am. So, but once again, thank you so much for hanging out. It's been an absolute blast. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you all later.